The late autumn wind sliced through Park Avenue as Maddie Hayes stepped out of the corner pharmacy, one hand instinctively resting on her 6-month belly. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, fingers trembling, coat too thin for the cold. She had spent her last $40 on prenatal vitamins, hoping they would stretch until next week. She didn't even see the black Lexus until it braked hard in front of her. Colton Ward, her ex-husband, slammed the door, storming toward her with a fury that froze her in place. The people passing by turned subtly, sensing trouble but pretending not to see. "So this is where you've sunk," he sneered, looking her up and down. "Buying cheap vitamins on a discount card. God, Maddie, you're useless. Completely useless." Her breath hitched. She swallowed, trying to stay steady. "Colton, please, not here." He stepped closer, voice dripping ridicule. "Why not here? Everyone should know. You can't hold a job, you can't pay rent, you can't even take care of yourself, let alone that thing inside you." "That thing?" Her voice cracked. He shrugged, cold as steel. "You're a burden, and I'm done cleaning up after you." Nothing hurt more than the way he said it. Not loud, not dramatic, but with a dismissive finality that carved straight through her ribs. Pedestrians kept walking. Taxi horns blared. Midtown rushed on, unaware that her entire world had just collapsed at the curb. She tried to move past him, but he blocked her path. "You have 1 week to get out of the apartment," he said, smirking. "It's in my name, and if you think you're keeping the baby without signing my agreement, think again." Maddie felt her knees weaken. Her pulse fluttered dangerously. Too fast, too light. The stress pressed on her chest like a weight. Then a voice behind them spoke, calm, low, unmistakably authoritative. "Sir, I heard every word you just said." Maddie turned and froze, because the man standing there was someone she never expected to see again. Madeline Hayes had once believed marriage would soften the sharp edges of life. She was 24 when she met Colton Ward. Charming, ambitious, handsome in that polished Manhattan way. Back then, he smiled easily, opened doors, brought her coffee during her long nights drawing children's book illustrations. He said she was the most talented woman he'd ever met. But the version of Colton standing on Park Avenue now, the one calling her useless, had been growing inside him for years. It started small. A joke about her tiny income, a complaint that her art career was cute but not real work. He slowly nudged her away from friends, saying they were jealous. Later, he insisted on handling all their bills. "You're too creative to worry about numbers," he would say, while quietly moving everything under his name. Madeline thought love meant compromise. She didn't see how quickly compromise became control. The real fracture came the night she told him she was pregnant. She had imagined joy. Instead, Colton went still, jaw tight, eyes calculating. Like the news wasn't a blessing, but an inconvenience. He said they weren't ready. He said a baby would ruin their plans. But when she refused to consider anything but keeping the child, he shifted tactics. Cold, distant, then cruel. "I can't carry you anymore," he said one night, sitting on the edge of their bed, scrolling his phone. "If you're going to keep this baby, you better figure out how to not be dead weight." She cried quietly so he wouldn't hear. When he filed for divorce at 3 months pregnant, he left the papers on the kitchen counter with a sticky note. "Clean break. Don't make this messy." He stripped her of their savings, sold her car, told her she'd land on her feet if she tried harder. But the worst part wasn't the financial ruin. It was how thoroughly he convinced her she had failed. Now, standing on Park Avenue, shivering under the weight of his words, Maddie wondered why she hadn't seen him clearly sooner, why she had ignored every red flag, why she still felt guilty. Her breath fogged the air as she steadied herself. Then the man who had spoken behind them stepped forward, tall, calm, unmistakably composed. And when Maddie finally recognized him, her heart jolted. Because he knew a part of her past Colton never discovered. And it could change everything. Madeline's studio apartment in Queens had once felt like a refuge, a place where she could breathe without Colton's shadow stretching across every corner. It sat above a small laundromat, its walls thin enough for her to hear the hum of dryers late into the night. The floor creaked, the radiator hissed, and the single window looked out over a narrow alley that never quite saw the sun. But tonight, as she pushed open the door, with trembling hands, the space felt unbearably small, claustrophobic. Closing in, her prenatal vitamins clattered onto the kitchen counter beside an unopened letter taped to the door. Final notice. Rent termination. Her heart lurched. Colton hadn't been bluffing. He had already moved to evict her. She pressed a hand to her belly, taking slow breaths the doctor had taught her. "It's okay, baby. I'm here," she whispered, though she didn't feel here at all. She felt like she was slipping through cracks she couldn't patch fast enough. The apartment smelled faintly of chamomile tea from the night before, a tea she didn't finish because she had spent hours rereading rejection emails from publishers. Emails that, now, she knew, might not have come from publishers at all. Her chest tightened. Everything hurt. She moved toward the sofa, but halfway there her legs buckled. A sharp, sudden pain shot across her abdomen and stealing her breath. She grabbed the edge of the table to stay upright, her vision spotting. The doctor's warning echoed in her mind. Too much stress could trigger early contractions. Not now. Not when she had nowhere to go. Her phone buzzed on the couch. Unknown number. She ignored it, lowering herself carefully to her knees. She tried to inhale, tried to steady the world tilting around her. But another pain rolled through her like a wave. A tear slid down her cheek. Not from the pain, but from the fear of being completely, devastatingly alone. Then her phone buzzed again. This time, a voicemail alert. She reached for it with shaking hands, pressing play. A calm male voice filled the tiny room. "Maddie, it's Sander Cole. Please call me back. I'm worried about you." Her breath hitched. He remembered her. He had found her. And then, 3 hard knocks pounded at her front door. She wasn't sure whether it was help or danger. The pounding at the door rattled the frame, echoing through Maddie's tiny studio like a threat. She forced herself upright, one hand braced on the arm of the couch, the other cradling her stomach. Her breath came shallow, uneven. Another knock, firmer this time. "Madeline, it's Sander Cole." Her knees nearly gave out again. Sander Cole. Not a stranger. Not danger. But a man whose name lived in headlines and business magazines. A man whose creative empire she once dreamed of working for. And now he was standing outside her peeling apartment door. She unlocked it with trembling fingers. When the door opened, Sander stood beneath the flickering hallway light. Tall, composed, wearing a charcoal coat dusted with November rain. His presence filled the doorway with a quiet steadiness that made her chest tighten. "Maddie," he said gently, "you weren't answering. I heard strain in your voice earlier. May I come in?" She hesitated, ashamed of the mess, the cramped space, the eviction notice staring from the counter. But the pain in her abdomen pulsed again, and she stepped aside. As he entered, he scanned the room, not judging, but assessing. His eyes softened when they landed on her shaking hands. "You're in pain," he said calmly. "How long has it been happening?" "Just tonight," she whispered, lowering herself onto the couch. "It's been a bad day." He crouched beside her, voice low and steady. "I didn't mean to intrude on something so personal." But when I saw your ex-husband speaking to you the way he did, she felt heat rise in her cheeks. Well, you saw that. I heard more than I wanted to. His jaw tightened, not in anger at her, but at what had been done to her. She looked away, embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to see me like that. Maddie, he said softly. What he said wasn't truth. It was cruelty. Her eyes burned. No one had spoken to her so gently in months. Then his gaze shifted to the final notice on the counter. His expression changed, sharpened. Is he evicting you? She swallowed hard. Yes. I have 1 week. Sander rose slowly, pulling his phone from his coat pocket. What he's doing is illegal, he murmured. And I'm not letting him corner you like this. Before she could ask what he meant, her phone lit up on the table. Colton was calling, and he didn't sound like a man who planned to talk. The phone vibrated across the coffee table, its harsh ringtone slicing through the stillness of the small apartment. Maddie stared at the screen, dread curling through her stomach. Colton Ward. His name alone made the walls feel tighter. Sander stepped closer, voice steady. You don't have to answer that. But she did. If she didn't, he'd show up again, louder, nastier, more dangerous. With trembling fingers, she swiped to accept. She barely managed a soft, "Hello?" Colton didn't bother with greetings. So you ran to someone already, he snapped. Typical. You can't survive 2 hours without a man rescuing you. Her breath hitched. Please don't do this. I'm exhausted, Colton. Oh, I'll make it quick then, he said, voice icy. You have 1 week to clear out. And I want your signature on the custody release before then. And I'm not getting tied down with a kid you can't afford. A soft sound escaped her, half gasp, half disbelief. Custody release? You can't be serious. Sander, standing a few feet away, stiffened. His eyes darkened, jaw tightening as he listened. Colton laughed. You think you can raise a child when you can't even pay rent? Or when every publisher in this city rejected your pathetic work? You're not stable, Maddie. You're not fit to be a mother. Her hand pressed instinctively over her belly, as if shielding her child from his poison. She whispered, Why are you doing this? On the other end, silence. Then his answer came low, sharp, almost rehearsed. Because you owe me, and I'm done carrying you. Her eyes burned. She turned away, not wanting Sander to see the tears. Colton's voice dropped even colder. Sign the papers, or things get ugly. I know people who can make this messy for you. Before she could respond, Sander reached over and calmly pressed end call. Maddie jerked, startled. You shouldn't have. He threatened you, Sander said, his tone deeper, firmer than before. You're pregnant, alone, and he's escalating. Her voice trembled. I don't know what to do anymore. Sander's gaze softened with something protective, something resolute. You're not alone tonight, Maddie, and you won't be alone again. Before she could answer, a sudden crash echoed from the hallway, a heavy thud right outside her door. Someone was out there. The crash outside the apartment door jolted Maddie upright. Her heart hammered painfully, her breath shallow and quick. For a moment, neither she nor Sander moved, listening, waiting, trying to make sense of the sound. Another thud. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Sander stepped in front of her without hesitation, positioning himself between Maddie and the door. His voice dropped, calm but alert. Stay back. Don't move. Her fingers dug into the couch cushion. Do you think it's... He didn't let her finish. He raised a hand, signaling silence. Outside, the dim hallway lights flickered, casting long shadows beneath the doorframe. A scrape followed, metal against wood, like someone dragging something across the floor. Maddie's breath hitched as fear wrapped around her throat. Sander's jaw tightened. He quietly picked up the nearest object, a thick glass vase from her side table, and held it like a weapon. He moved silently toward the peephole, peering out. His body stiffened. "What? Who is it?" Maddie whispered. He stepped back slowly. Not Colton, but someone he sent. Good, I think. Her blood ran cold. A deep male voice sounded from the hallway. "Madeline Hayes, we need to talk." It wasn't a request. It was a demand. Sander shook his head at the door, lowering his voice. "You don't open that?" "Whatever he wants, it isn't good." The pounding resumed, this time harder, angrier. "Madeline, I know you're in there. Open the door." The stress triggered a sharp tightening in Maddie's abdomen. She gasped, bending forward. "Sander, something's wrong." He dropped the glass vase on the couch and knelt beside her. "Is it the pain from earlier? Is it worse?" She nodded, gripping his sleeve. It's sharper." His calm facade cracked for a moment. "We need to get you out of here." The pounding escalated into violent shaking, like the man outside was trying to break the door down. Sander helped Maddie to her feet, but he's supporting her weight. His voice steadied again, but urgency pulsed beneath it. "I'm taking you out the back through the fire escape. This isn't safe anymore." Another hit against the door. Cracks splintered near the lock. Maddie's pulse roared in her ears. "Sander, what if he gets in?" He wrapped an arm around her, protective and unshakable. "Then he'll have to go through me first." The doorframe groaned, wood snapping, and then the doorknob slowly began to turn. The doorknob twisted with a slow, deliberate grind that froze Maddie's breath in her chest. The metal rattled, then stopped. Whoever stood outside had realized the lock was holding. For now. Sander tightened his grip around her waist. "We move. Now." He guided her toward the fire escape window, each step jarring against the sharp pulsing in her abdomen. She bit down a cry, refusing to let fear paralyze her. But the pain, it was worsening, like a tightening band, squeezing from the inside out. Behind them, the door shook violently. A man barked, "Madeline, open it! This is your last warning!" It didn't sound like a debt collector. This was someone who believed he had a right to enter. Someone who wasn't afraid to break the law for Colton. Sander quickly unlatched the window. Cold wind rushed in, carrying the distant sirens and the hum of traffic from the street below. "Careful," he murmured. "I'll go first, then help you down." But before he could climb out, the man outside rammed his shoulder against the door. The wood splintered. A crack raced across the frame like a lightning bolt. Maddie flinched. "Sander, he's coming through." "I know." His voice was calm but charged with adrenaline. He slipped out onto the creaking fire escape, then reached both arms through the window for her. Maddie forced herself forward, swallowing a wave of pain. Her fingers gripped his coat sleeves as she leaned through the window frame. Just as her feet touched the metal platform, the apartment door gave a deafening crash. The intruder was inside. "Go," Sander urged, guiding her down the first step. "Keep your head down. Don't look back." But Maddie made the mistake anyway. She turned. Through the broken window behind them, she saw a shadowed figure rush into her apartment. Broad shoulders, dark jacket, something metallic in his hand. Not a weapon. A phone. He lifted it, snapping rapid photos of the empty room. "What is he doing?" Maddie whispered. Sander's eyes narrowed. "Collecting proof, or leverage." The man stepped toward the window, too close, too fast. Sander grabbed her hand. "We need to disappear before he gets down here." As they descended the fire escape, Maddie's stomach tightened again, sharper than before. She gasped, stumbling. Sander caught her instantly. "What's wrong?" Her vision blurred, breath catching. I think something's happening with the baby." and then she felt the unmistakable rush of warmth down her leg. Warm fluid soaked down Maddie's leg, and her breath collapsed into a sharp cry. She clutched the railing of the fire escape, her body trembling violently. "Sander, something's wrong. I can't." He was already there, steadying her before she fainted. His voice, normally calm, now held an undercurrent of urgency he could no longer conceal. "Maddie, look at me. You might be going into preterm labor. We need to get you to a hospital now." The alley below stretched dark and narrow, barely lit by the flickering light of a broken street lamp. Sander scanned the path, then shifted her weight against his chest. "I'm carrying you. Hold on to me." Before she could protest, he lifted her effortlessly, his arm supporting her back, the other beneath her knees. She felt his heartbeat against her cheek, strong and steady, grounding her as fear spiraled. Behind them, the intruder reached the window, his angry voice echoing down the metal stairs. "Hey, stop! Don't go anywhere!" Sander didn't look back. He descended quickly but carefully, every step controlled despite the urgency. Maddie clung to him, breathing through her pain like the nurses had taught her months ago. "He's following us," she whispered, hearing the clatter of footsteps above. "One, I know," Sander said, "but he won't reach you. I promise." When they reached the bottom, he set her gently on her feet, bracing her until she could steady herself against the brick wall. A black SUV rolled past the alley entrance, and Sander waved it down with a sharp whistle. The driver hit the brakes, a private security car. Maddie blinked, confused. "You have security following you?" Sander helped her into the back seat. "Not usually. But after what I saw earlier today, I asked my head of security to stay close." The driver jumped out and opened the door fully. "Mr. Cole, who's the threat?" "The man coming down those stairs," Sander answered. "Drive as soon as we're in." As the SUV doors shut, the intruder burst into view at the top of the alley, shouting after them. The engine roared, tires screeched, and they sped into the street, leaving him behind. But Maddie couldn't relax. A new contraction tightened her abdomen, harder this time, deep, consuming. She grabbed Sander's arm, desperation filling her eyes. "Sander, what if the baby comes early?" His expression changed, fear, protectiveness, determination blending into one. "Maddie, hold on. We're almost there." But before he could say more, Maddie's vision flickered, and everything went dark. Maddie drifted in and out of consciousness as the SUV sped through Queens toward Manhattan. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, though she couldn't tell if they were real or part of the dreamlike fog pulling her under. Her head rested against Sander's shoulder, his arm wrapped protectively around her so she wouldn't slip sideways. "Stay with me, Maddie," he murmured, voice strained. "We're almost at the clinic. Just breathe." But breathing felt like trying to pull air through water. A contraction tore through her, sharp enough to arch her back. She cried out, soft, broken, and her hand clutched Sander's coat. He held her tighter, guiding her through the pain. "And through your nose. Slow. Slow. Good. I'm right here." The SUV swerved onto Park Avenue, stopping in front of a private maternity clinic with glowing glass doors and a marble entryway. The moment the vehicle halted, 2 nurses rushed out with a stretcher, alerted by Sander's call seconds earlier. When they opened the door, cold night air swept in, stinging her skin. "Is she in active labor?" one nurse asked. "Maybe," Sander said, helping lift Maddie onto the stretcher. His voice shook. Her water broke. She fainted. She's been chased. Her stress levels are dangerously high. As they rushed her inside, the bright lights of the clinic blurred together. The world spun. She heard beeping monitors, muffled footsteps, calm voices giving instructions. Someone took her vitals. Another placed an oxygen tube beneath her nose. Then a doctor leaned close, his tone patient but serious. "Madeline, we're monitoring your contractions. You may not be fully in labor yet, but you are at major risk of preterm complications. Stress is triggering your symptoms. We need to keep you stable." Stable. The word felt foreign. Sander stood at the doorway, coat still on, rain dampening his hair, watching her like she was the only person in the room. His eyes carried worry she didn't understand. Why would a billionaire care so deeply about her? The doctor adjusted a monitor. We'll need to observe her overnight. No visitors past midnight." Sander stepped forward. "I'm not leaving her alone." Rules didn't seem to apply to him. The doctor hesitated, then nodded. But before Maddie could relax, a nurse hurried in, whispering urgently to the doctor. The doctor's expression changed, tightened. He looked at Sander. "Mr. Cole, security says someone is outside asking for Maddie." Sander's shoulders tensed. "They say he knows you." The doctor's words hit the room like a cold gust. "Someone outside is asking for Maddie. He says he knows you." Sander's posture shifted instantly. Back straight, shoulders rigid, eyes sharpening with something protective and dangerous at the same time. "Did he give a name?" The nurse shook her head. "No, sir. But he's insistent. Security is holding him at the lobby." Maddie felt her pulse spike in the monitor beside her. The beeping quickened. No, it can't be Colton. He wouldn't come here. He knows clinics report harassment." But even as she said it, doubt crawled up her spine. Colton didn't care about laws or lines, and he wanted something, whether it was custody, control, or something darker she had yet to understand. Sander walked to her bedside, lowering his voice. "I'm going to see who it is. You stay here. You don't move. You're safe." Her fingers caught his wrist before he could step away. What if it is him? His gaze softened, but the steel beneath remained. "Then he'll have to deal with me, not you." He squeezed her hand, then strode out of the room, the door swinging shut behind him. The silence that followed felt heavier than the pounding rain outside. Nurses moved in and out, adjusting machines, calming her breathing. But Maddie's focus stayed on that closed door, on whatever threat stood beyond it. Minutes passed. Too many minutes. Finally, footsteps approached. The door opened. But it wasn't Sander. It was Riley Voss, her ex-best friend. The woman who had smiled at her wedding, toasted her marriage, stood beside her in photos, before disappearing the moment the divorce became public. Maddie's stomach twisted. "Riley, what are you doing here?" Riley stepped inside, expensive heels clicking against the tile, rain streaking her designer trench coat. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between guilt and panic. "I didn't come to fight," Riley said softly. "I came to warn you." Maddie froze. "Warn me? About what?" Riley looked toward the hallway, making sure no one else was listening. Then she leaned in, whispering, "You're not safe, Maddie. Colton isn't just trying to take the baby. He's planning something worse. Something you don't know." Maddie's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Before Riley could answer, a voice thundered from the hallway. "Get away from her!" Sander. And this time he wasn't calm. Sander's voice sliced through the room like a clean blade. "Step away from her, Riley." Riley stiffened, turning to face him. Rain glimmered on her lashes, but her expression didn't shift. If anything, she seemed resigned, as if she expected this confrontation. "Sander," she said quietly, "I'm not here to hurt her." "You already did," he shot back, moving to Maddie's bedside. His body formed an instinctive barrier, for protective and unyielding. "You don't get to walk back into her life after tearing it apart." Riley swallowed hard. You think I don't know that? Maddie clutched the blanket, torn between fear, confusion, and the faintest ache of a friendship she once believed was unbreakable. Riley, just tell me why you're here. What did you mean when you said I'm not safe? Riley looked at her, really looked, and something in her expression cracked. Maddie, Colton didn't leave you because he stopped loving you. He left because he needed money, a lot of it. Maddie blinked. What does that have to do with me? Everything. Riley's voice trembled. He owes people, dangerous people. And when he realized you were pregnant, he thought the baby could solve his debt. Maddie's chest tightened. Solve? How? Sanders' eyes narrowed. What? Say it. Riley took a breath, then whispered the words like poison leaving her mouth. He's planning to give custody of the baby to one of his investors, permanently, in exchange for wiping out what he owes. Maddie felt the room tilt. No, that can't be real. He couldn't. He would, Riley said. And he already filed preliminary documents, falsifying claims that you're mentally unstable and unfit to parent. I know, because I helped him draft the PR narrative he planned to leak if you fought back. Maddie's heart splintered. Sanders' voice was low, simmering with rage. Why tell us now? Riley's gaze faltered. Because Colton turned on me, too. He said if I didn't keep helping him, he'd make me the scapegoat. And Maddie, he's desperate. Desperate people do reckless things. Before Sonder could respond, the clinic's intercom buzzed sharply overhead. Security alert. Unauthorized individual breaching the side entrance. All personnel move to lockdown procedures. Maddie's breath froze. Sander grabbed her hand. Riley whispered, terrified. It's him. The intercom crackled again, the sterile voice repeating, Security alert. All wings initiate lockdown. Unauthorized entry at the east stairwell. Riley paled. Maddie's pulse thundered through the monitor. Sander stepped in front of both women, his stance wide, protective, ready. A nurse burst into the room with hurried footsteps. We need to move her to the secured maternity ward, now. But before they could even reach the door, a metallic clang erupted somewhere in the hallway. The lights flickered. Someone had forced a door open. Maddie's breath locked in her chest. He's here. Colton's here. Sander took her hand. I won't let him reach you. I swear it. Riley hovered behind them, trembling. She whispered, You don't understand. He's completely unstable tonight. He blames her for everything. The debt, the divorce, the baby. The nurse cut her off. Save it for later. Move. They pushed Maddie's bed into the hallway, wheels squeaking along polished floors. Her contractions eased, but the fear gripping her ribs only grew tighter. They passed through two heavy doors that locked automatically behind them, sealing the corridor. An alarm pulsed overhead. Steady, rhythmic, suffocating. A guard sprinted toward them. Mr. Cole, we've got visual. The suspect is inside the building and headed toward this wing. Sanders' jaw clenched. Get Maddie behind the reinforced doors. We're trying, the guard said, unswiping a keycard. But the auto-lock system shut down when he forced the emergency stairwell. We're on manual override. The first set of steel doors slid open. They rushed inside. Just as the doors began closing, a figure appeared at the far end of the hall. Colton, his hair wild, chest heaving, eyes burning with something unhinged. He looked nothing like the sharply dressed husband Maddie once knew. He looked desperate. Dangerous. Lost. Maddie, he roared, sprinting toward them. Riley screamed. The guard shoved her behind Sander. Nurses ducked into side rooms, slamming doors shut. Colton's footsteps pounded closer. The steel doors were only halfway closed. "Maddie, listen to me!" he shouted, reaching out with shaking hands. "You're coming with me! We're fixing this tonight!" Sander lunged forward and hit the emergency seal button. The heavy doors shuddered. Slow. Too slow. Colton lunged. His hand slipped through the narrowing gap and grabbed Maddie's wrist. Colton's fingers clamped around Maddie's wrist with a strength fueled by panic dog and delusion. His grip was ice cold, trembling, not from fear, but from the wild desperation twisting through his body. "Maddie, stop fighting," he barked, trying to pull her closer through the narrowing steel doors. "You're coming home. We're fixing everything right now." Pain shot up her arm. She gasped, twisting away. "Colton, let go. You're hurting me." But reason had abandoned him. His pupils blown wide, his movements jerky. He strained against the metal like a trapped animal. Sander surged forward, grabbing Maddie's shoulders and pulling her back from the gap. "Colton, release her now!" Colton snarled, tightening his hold. She's my wife." "Ex-wife," Sander shot back, forceful, unshakable. "And you're endangering her and the baby." "I'm saving her," Colton shouted, spit flying. "You don't get it. People are coming after me. If she signs over custody tonight, I have leverage. If she doesn't," his breath hitched, voice dropping into something hauntingly low, "they'll take it from her anyway." Riley's voice tore through the commotion. "Colton, stop! You're going to destroy her, like you destroyed everything else!" Her words hit him like a physical blow, but instead of stopping him, they unhinged him further. He yanked harder. Maddie screamed. The guard sprinted forward, trying to wedge himself between the narrowing doors, but the safety mechanism hissed, forcing him back before he could breach the frame. The doors were seconds from sealing. Sander planted his foot against the reinforced frame, bracing himself, and reached through the shrinking gap, fingers curling around Colton's wrist. "Let her go!" Colton shook violently, his voice cracking. "No, no! She owes me! She ruined everything! Do you hear me? Everything!" "You did that to yourself," Sander growled. The metal groaned. 2 inches left. Sander wrenched back with all his strength. Colton's hand slipped free, just as the steel door slammed shut, locking him on the other side. His furious scream echoed down the hall, muffled by reinforced metal. Maddie collapsed into Sander's arms, sobbing, shaking, her wrist throbbing red. But before anyone could catch their breath, the intercom crackled again. This time, a security officer's voice trembled. "Mr. Cole, Colton didn't come alone." The intercom buzzed again, the voice tight with fear. "Mr. Cole, Colton didn't come alone." The room froze. Sander straightened, every instinct sharpening. "How many?" 2 additional men, unknown identities. They entered through the parking level. Security is engaging, but they're not backing off. Riley gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh my God, he really did it. He brought them here." Maddie clutched the rails of her hospital bed, her pulse spiking. "Who are they? Why are they here?" Riley hesitated, then forced the truth out. "The men Colton owes money to. They're not just investors. They're the ones he promised." She broke off, unable to finish. Sander stepped closer, voice low. "Promised what?" A tear slid down Riley's cheek. "Promised your baby, Maddie. As repayment." The words crashed into her like a physical blow. Her breath caught, her chest tightening as an icy dread crawled up her spine. No, that's impossible. That can't be real." But Riley's silence was confirmation enough. The guard outside the room barked orders into his radio. Boots thundered down the hall. Someone shouted. Another alarm blared. Sander immediately moved into action. "Riley, help the nurse barricade the doors. No one comes in without my clearance." Riley nodded shakily and joined the nurse, dragging a heavy supply cart toward the entrance. Sander took Maddie's trembling hands in his voice softened, steady but charged with urgency. Nothing is going to happen to you or your child. Do you understand? I will not let anyone take you. Her eyes glossed with fear. Why is this happening? Why won't they leave me alone? Because you were married to a man who made promises he couldn't keep, he said. But those promises end tonight. Before she could respond, a deafening bang echoed through the hallway, followed by another. And another. The nurse's face drained of color. They're trying to breach the secured wing. Maddie's contractions surged again, sharp and consuming. She cried out, gripping Sander's wrist. He instantly supported her, guiding her breathing. We need to move her to the reinforced maternity suite, the doctor said, rushing in. It's the safest room in the building. But before they could wheel her out, the lights flickered violently, then went black. The power had been cut. Emergency red lights bathed the hallway in a blood-red glow. And from somewhere beyond the darkness came a voice. Find her. The emergency red lights threw jagged shadows across the hallway, turning the pristine clinic into a maze of blood-colored corridors. Every distant footstep, every metallic clank, echoed with amplified threat. Maddie clutched the bed rails, contractions rolling in tight, breath-stealing waves. Sander, I don't know how much longer I can. You can, he said firmly, brushing damp hair from her forehead. And you will. Because I'm getting you out of here. Another slam reverberated from the far end of the wing. Not close yet, but closing in. The doctor snapped on a portable lamp. We need to move now. The reinforced maternity suite has a manual lock and no external windows. It's the safest place we can hold out until police arrive. The guard pressed an earpiece to his ear, face tightening. They've split up. One of them is heading straight for this hallway. Riley let out a shaky breath. This is my fault. I should have turned on him sooner. I didn't know it would get this far. Sander cut her off sharply. You can regret later. Right now, you block that guilt and help us survive. The bed's wheels squeaked as the doctor and nurse pushed Maddie down the corridor. The red lights flickered again, disorienting, but Sander stayed by her side, one hand gripping the railing, the other steadying her. They turned a corner and froze. A tall figure stood at the end of the hallway. Not Colton. One of the men he owed. Thick coat. Hood up. A cold, calculated silence radiated off him. He started walking. Slow. The purposeful. Back, the guard ordered, positioning himself between the intruder and the group. Get her behind the double doors. Maddie's heartbeat roared in her ears. Her vision went blurry around the edges. Another contraction hit, so sharp she cried out. Sander wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Breathe with me. Look at me, not him. The guard drew a baton, but the intruder didn't slow, didn't speak, didn't blink. He reached into his coat. Riley screamed. He's got something! The guard lunged. The hallway erupted into chaos. Shouts, a crash, the clatter of metal hitting tile. Sander grabbed the bed and shoved it through the double doors as the doctor slammed them shut behind them. But before the locks clicked, a hand forced itself through the narrowing crack. Not the guards. The intruder had followed them. The intruder's hand jammed through the narrowing door gap, thick fingers clawing for leverage, skin scraping against steel as he forced the barrier back open inch by inch. The doctor shouted for help, pressing his weight against the door, but the stranger's strength was monstrous, fueled by desperation and something far darker. Riley stumbled backward, horrified. He's trying to wedge the lock. He'll break through. Sander lunged forward, bracing his shoulder against the door beside the doctor. Muscles straining, jaw clenched, he shoved with every ounce of strength he had. "Get Maddie to the maternity suite now," he barked. The nurse obeyed instantly, pushing the hospital bed down the hallway. Maddie gripped the rails, vision swimming, fear and pain clashing in her chest with each ragged breath. Behind her, the intruder growled, low, animalistic, as he forced his arm deeper into the room. His coat sleeve slid back, revealing a crude tattoo. Maddie's blood iced. She had seen that marking once before, on a man Colton had argued with outside their old apartment, a debt collector. The intruder slammed his shoulder into the door, making the frame shudder. "Give her to me," he roared. "We finish this tonight." "Over my dead body," Sander hissed, pushing back with everything inside him. The doctor grabbed a metal tray and swung it at the intruder's arm. The man howled in pain, jerking back just enough for Riley to shove a supply cart into the doorframe, wedging it tight. "Go! Go now!" Riley screamed. The doctor and Sander sprinted after the rolling bed. Maddie clutched her stomach as another contraction tore through her, hot, sharp, unbearable. "Sander, I can't," she gasped. "Yes, you can," he said, taking her hand as they ran. Only a little farther. Behind them, a deafening crash echoed. The intruder had kicked the supply cart aside. "Faster!" the doctor yelled. "He's coming!" They turned the corner toward the reinforced maternity suite, a heavy steel door at the end of the hallway. The guard waiting outside swiped his keycard. "Get in! Now!" The door began to slide open. But before they could reach it, a figure stepped out of the shadows between them and safety. Not the intruder. Not a guard. Colton, his expression wild, his eyes glassy, his hands shaking. "Maddie," he whispered, voice breaking. "You're coming with me. Or no one is." Colton staggered forward, blocking the narrow hallway like a broken gate. His face was gaunt, pale, sweat clinging to his temples. This wasn't anger anymore. It was unraveling. Madness wrapped in desperation. "Maddie," his voice trembled. "Don't make this harder. We can still fix everything. You sign the papers, and they'll leave us alone. You owe me that much." "I owe you nothing," she whispered, gripping the rails of her bed as another contraction tightened her stomach. Tears stung her eyes. Fear, pain, betrayal all blurring together. "And you're not touching my child." Sander stepped between them, planting himself like a wall of iron. "You're done, Colton. Walk away before someone gets hurt." Colton's expression twisted. "You think she wants you? You think you can save her?" He laughed, a wild, hollow sound. "She's useless without me. Always has been." Sander's jaw clenched, muscles coiling. "If you call her that one more time." "Or what?" Colton sneered, stepping closer. "You'll throw money at the problem? Well, like you always do." He lunged then, not at Sander, but at Maddie. Sander reacted instantly. He grabbed Colton by the collar, slamming him back against the wall with a force that rattled the picture frames. The guard rushed forward, assisting him, pinning Colton's arms as he thrashed and yelled. "You don't understand," Colton screamed. "If she doesn't sign, they'll come after me. They'll—" From behind them came a chilling sound. Boots, heavy, fast, multiple pairs. The intruders had found the hallway. Riley gasped, backing toward the maternity suite door. "Oh God, they're coming from both sides." The guard wrestled cuffs onto Colton's wrists, but Colton kept shouting, "They want the baby! Don't you get it? They want—" "Shut up!" Sander barked, pushing him toward the guard. "Get him inside the reinforced room!" But the guard froze. Because down the hallway, stepping into view beneath the red emergency lights, was a second man. The same tattoo, the same cold stare. And this one wasn't hesitating. He lifted something from his coat. Not a weapon, but a cell phone, screen glowing with a photo. A photo of Maddie and her unborn child's due date. Printed below it was a chilling message. Property of Voss and Ward. Transfer agreement pending. Maddie's blood turned to ice. The man's cell phone screen glowed like a sick omen in the dim hallway. The words, property of Voss and Ward. Transfer agreement. Pending, burning into Maddie's vision. Her breath punched out of her chest. She felt her body curl inward, one arm instinctively wrapping around her stomach. Saunders stepped in front of her again, voice a low growl. Put that away. Now. But the man didn't move. He smirked. Slow, but deliberate. This agreement was signed by Ward himself. We're here to collect what we're owed. That is not legal, the guard snapped, gripping Colton harder. And trafficking a child is a federal... The intruder cut him off with a harsh laugh. Oh, we're past legal. Ward promised payment tonight. No baby, no deal. Behind him, the second intruder finally reached the hallway. The one from earlier, bruised from the scuffle, but burning with fury. They closed in like wolves. Riley stumbled back, tears streaming. This is my fault. I helped him. I fed his lies. I didn't know it would go the... Riley, stop, Maddie whispered, shaking. Not now. Another contraction ripped through her, fiercer than before. She nearly folded, crying out as the bed's monitor spiked. The doctor rushed to her side. She's dilating faster. We need to get her inside that suite immediately. Saunders grabbed the bed rail. Open the door. The guard fumbled with his card, but the intruders quickened their pace. No one's leaving, Mr. Cole, the first man taunted. This whole wing is surrounded. She's ours. Saunders turned, eyes burning with an intensity that made even the guard falter. You're not touching her. Not while I'm breathing. The intruder raised the phone again. Ward told us you'd get in the way. He gave us permission to neutralize interference. Saunders stepped forward, fists clenched. Try. Before the man could react, Saunders grabbed a crash cart, swung it with precise force, and slammed the intruder against the wall. The phone skittered across the floor, screen cracking. The second man lunged, but the guard intercepted, tackling him. Open the door! Saunders roared. The maternity suite door beeped, finally unlocking. The doctor shoved Maddie's bed inside. Riley followed, sobbing. Saunders backed in last, keeping his body between Maddie and the chaos exploding behind them. As the steel door slid shut, a hand shot through the gap. Not Colton's, not the intruders. It was the guard's, bloodied, his voice shaking. Saunders. They got him. The guard's blood-slicked hand slipped through the narrowing door gap, trembling violently. Saunders. They got him, he rasped, before collapsing out of sight as the steel door slammed shut, sealing the maternity suite with a heavy, echoing thunk. Maddie screamed. Riley covered her mouth. The doctor locked the manual bolts, voice shaking. We're in full lockdown now. No one gets in unless we open that door. Saunders' chest heaved once, twice, fury and fear twisting through him like storm winds. He pressed both palms against the steel, as if he could force it back open, by will alone. Outside, muffled shouts erupted. The intruders' voices grew louder, angrier. They were searching, pounding, testing every weak point. But inside the room, another battle had begun. Maddie let out a broken cry, clutching her stomach. It's happening. Saunders, I can't stop it. The doctor rushed to her side. She's progressing too quickly. We have to deliver if this escalates. Prepare the emergency equipment. I can't have the baby now, Maddie sobbed. Not like this. Not while they're out there. Saunders hurried to her bedside, taking her shaking hand in both of his. Maddie, look at me. Nothing out there touches you. None, do you hear me? You're safe in here. Her tears spilled freely. They want my baby. And they will never get near your child, he said, voice rough with emotion. Not while I'm alive. Riley stood back, arms wrapped around herself, guilt written across her face. I never thought Colton would take it this far. I thought it was all talk. I didn't know he was capable of this. Sander shot her a hard look. You still have a chance to help her. So stay alert. A sudden metallic bang rattled the entire room. Then another, harder, and another. The intruders had reached the maternity suite door. The doctor paled. They're trying to force the lock. Riley pressed her hands to her ears. They can't get in. They can't, right? Sander stepped between the door and Maddie, positioning himself like a fortress. His shadow consumed the frantic red glow of the emergency lights. You will not touch her, he muttered, as though speaking directly to the men behind the steel. Then, silence, a chilling, unnatural silence. Sander exchanged a look with the doctor, and then a new sound emerged. Low, deep, methodical. Someone was drilling through the lock. The grinding drill bit screamed against the steel lock, sparks spitting into the dim red glow of the emergency lights. Maddie sobbed as another contraction hit, her body curling forward in pain and fear. The doctor snapped orders, wheeling equipment closer. They're breaching the door, he said, voice tight. We have minutes, maybe less. Riley pressed her back to the far wall, tears streaking her cheeks. Oh my God, they're really going to break in. They're going to take her baby. No, Sander barked, stepping into the center of the room like he was made of stone. No one touches her. Not tonight. Not ever. The drill cut deeper. Metal shrieked. The bolt bent. Maddie whimpered. Sander, please don't let them take my child. He cupped her face with shaking hands. Maddie Hayes, listen to me. You've survived everything they tried to break you with. You are not losing anything tonight. Bang! The bolt cracked. The intruders shouted to each other. The doctor whispered, Seconds. We have seconds. Sander turned to the medical cart, grabbed the heavy oxygen tank, its weight solid in his hands. He took position directly beside the weakening door. Doctor, he said, get behind Maddie. Riley, if you want redemption, hold that emergency call button and don't let go. Riley slammed her palm onto it, alarms blaring again through the clinic. The drill burst through the final layer. The bolt split. The door jolted inward. One intruder kicked it wide open. But the moment he stepped across the threshold, Sander swung the oxygen tank with brutal precision. It collided with the man's jaw. A sickening crack echoed. The intruder fell instantly, unconscious. The second entered, only to meet the same fate, the tank slamming into his ribs. He collapsed, gasping. And behind them, Colton staggered into view, hands cuffed in front, face bruised, but eyes still burning with obsession. This isn't over, he screamed. Sander, you don't understand. She ruined me. That baby. Sander didn't let him finish. He grabbed Colton by the collar and shoved him into the hallway wall so hard the drywall fractured. That baby, Sander growled, is not your property, and Maddie is not your victim. Sirens wailed outside. Police boots thundered up the stairs. Officers swarmed the hall, dragging the intruders away, hauling Colton off as he thrashed and cursed. Inside the room, Maddie broke into sobs of relief as the doctor approached. It's over, Sander whispered, kneeling beside her. You're safe. But the doctor pressed 2 fingers to her pulse, then lifted his eyes sharply. It's not over yet. She's going into full labor. Maddie clutched Sander's hand. Stay with me, she whispered. Don't leave. His answer was instant, raw, unfiltered, real. I'm not going anywhere, Maddie. Not now. Not for the rest of my life, if you'll have me. And just like that, our story closes its final chapter. But you're still here, aren't you? If you've stayed with me until this very moment, it means something in Maddie's journey touched your heart, Maybe her courage, her pain, or the way she rose again, even when the world tried to break her. You know, life doesn't always give us gentle lessons. Sometimes it throws us into storms so fierce, we're convinced we won't make it out. But as Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Maddie didn't choose her suffering, but she chose how to rise from it. She learned that walking away from what hurts is not weakness, it is wisdom. She discovered that asking for help isn't giving up, it is opening the door for healing. And she proved that love, the real kind, shows up when the world is darkest. So my friend, if you're listening right now, so maybe this is the universe nudging you. You are stronger than what tried to break you. You deserve people who protect your peace, not destroy it. And every ending, no matter how painful, carries the seed of a beginning you can't yet imagine. If this story moved you in any way, let us know. Like, share, and subscribe so more hearts can find comfort and strength here. You being here means more than you know. Before we wrap up, I want to gently remind you that this entire story is a work of fiction created for emotional storytelling and inspiration. None of the events, characters, or situations are real, and any resemblance to actual people or incidents is purely coincidental. The purpose of this narrative is to explore themes of courage, healing, and personal growth in a dramatic, cinematic way, not to portray real-life claims or factual events. Stories like this are meant to help us reflect on our own lives, our relationships, and the strength we carry within us. So, as you watch, please enjoy it as entertainment and a source of comfort, not as a documentary or factual report. Thank you for being here and for supporting the channel with kindness and understanding.